So, guys, what's going on? Canelo Alvarez rejects an Errol Spence fight. At the post-fight press conference, he was asked about Errol Spence, and Canelo Alvarez clearly said that I'm focused on the 168 division. I'm not focused on Errol Spence. Now, that this is a U-turn on what he said previously, where he said he would be interested in a Spence fight at 160. But I think now, I think Canelo Alvarez is interested in unifying the 168 division. And I think the reason why he wants to do that is because Canelo's never been an undisputed champion. And he looks at the 168-pound division and thinks there's a lot of food there. And what I mean by that is he thinks he can become a unified champion quite comfortably. Or undisputed champion quite comfortably. And he's never had that. He's never done that before. And he thinks that, you know what? My goal is to become undisputed champion at 168. Because he feels that the level of competition at the 168-pound division isn't that high. I think he thinks he beats all of them with with ease. And then he may go down to 160 to fight a Spence. I personally don't like the Spence fight. I just think Spence has got too much to handle, and Spence is the one that really is looking for that fight more than Canelo. Canelo's just kind of like, yeah, okay, if he wants to fight, we'll see. You know, it's a big fight. I'll entertain it. But I think I think Canelo's now, thought about it and thought, you know what? I've got different goals. I want to unify and become undisputed champion in the 168-pound division. And then after that, he may consider it. But right now, I think Canelo's not interested. I think Canelo thinks that I've got goals at 168. And let's be honest, if Canelo becomes undisputed champion at 168, I don't think anybody's going to want to see him fight Spence at 160. I just don't see that how a welterweight is going to come up and beat up a middleweight or a super. It's just not happening. I just think that Spence needs to focus on his division. Spence, I don't think Spence wants that Crawford fight, if I'm honest with you. And the reason why I say that is because he's talking about 60-40 or 70-30. He clearly said it. And now Crawford has clearly said that it can't happen unless it's 50-50. And I don't know whether Spence wants that fight. I don't know whether Spence wants that fight, because I think deep down he knows that the fight with Crawford's not going to happen if it's anything but 50-50. So it clearly shows that Spence has no interest in fighting Crawford, because Crawford already said unless the fight is 50-50, the fight ain't happening. So I don't see that fight happening, just because I think Spence doesn't want to fight Crawford unless the split is massively in his favor, which isn't going to happen. So the fight's not going to happen, and that's a kick in the teeth for boxing fans. That's a kick in the teeth for us. And Errol Spence probably looks at it and thinks that I'd rather fight Canelo for a huge payday, right? And yeah, I might be going into a fight as a huge underdog. And listen, probably Errol Spence thinks he can beat Canelo. I can't see it. I can't see how he beats him. I think Canelo's too skilled, too big, too much experience. But for me, Canelo turning that fight, because Canelo can make big money against. I don't even think Canelo's biggest payday will come against Spence. I think it'll be a big payday, but I don't think it'll be anywhere. Will it be as big as the Golovkin fight? I don't think it'll be anywhere near the biggest payday Canelo's had in his career. So Canelo's already made. Canelo's already sorted. Whereas Spence is still looking for those big paydays. And he doesn't feel that he's going to get those big paydays in the welterweight division. He's definitely not going to get it against Crawford. He might get it against Pacquiao. But again, we don't know what Pacquiao's doing right now. So if I'm totally honest with you, I think that Canelo is right to reject that fight and say, you know what, I'm focused on my division. I'm not interested in fighting, Errol Spence, because that fight doesn't do anything for me. It's one of those fights where what does Canelo gain from fighting Errol Spence? It's a kind of a fight where he's got everything to lose, nothing to gain. He's fighting a smaller man. Errol Spence, on the other hand, he's getting a big payday. He's getting a chance to fight the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. If he loses, people will just say, well, he was too small. If he puts up a good fight, people would laud him. If he wins, he's had it off. So at the end of the day, I don't feel like Spence is going into a no. I say that he's going into a no-lose situation. However, his health can be damaged, because when you're fighting a bigger man in a sport in boxing where, you know, the people are throwing punches, there's a chance you could get seriously hurt. And you could get seriously hurt in your own weight class. But when you're moving up and jumping up weight classes like that, you're putting yourself in more danger. It's a bit like if you're driving at 30, 40 miles an hour, you're still at risk, and you could still get seriously injured in a car crash. When you're driving at 90 miles an hour, you're putting yourself in more risk. And that's the same with boxing. When you're moving up weight classes like that, when you're jumping weight classes, you're putting yourself in more danger. The sport's already risky as it is, but when you're jumping up weight classes, you're putting yourself in more danger. And I feel that Canelo probably wants to become undisputed champion at 168. And here's the thing: I don't think Canelo will ignore that fight with Spence. If Spence keeps winning and Spence keeps doing his thing and Spence keeps growing his star, that becomes a huge fight. That becomes a monster super fight at 160. So Canelo would entertain that, because it would be a huge money fight, and that would just be a huge fight. So yes, Canelo would definitely entertain that. Just of right now, he just wants to become undisputed champion. He's got a goal to become undisputed champion. And I still doubt whether Canelo would move up to 175 to fight someone like Beterbiev. Just because, listen, I think Canelo will fight everyone, but I think the Beterbiev fight and the 175 fight, Canelo knows those fights are dangerous. Those fights are risky. And so he would rather take a fight with someone like Errol Spence, who's a smaller guy, who's a guy that he probably thinks that he would beat comfortably. Where a Beterbiev fight's a fight where it's very dangerous and very risky for Canelo. So I think there's some, listen, I think there's some really, really good matchups to be made at matchups. I think Canelo would be a strong favorite to beat everyone at 168 and 160. I don't see anyone beating Canelo. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that we can't see the fights. That doesn't mean that the fights can't be made and we don't get to see it. And there's nothing to say that one of those guys can't cause a massive upset. So, to be honest with you, I think that the Canelo's right in rejecting that fight. I think Errol Spence needs to focus on his division and fight Manny Pacquiao, fight Terence Crawford. And I think boxing fans are really upset with Errol Spence saying that Terence Crawford needs to take the 60-40 or 70-30 that we offer him, because that's a kick in the teeth, because what that basically means, we ain't getting that fight. And Eddie Hearn kind of mentioned that fight ain't happening, because Errol Spencer said that, Crawford can get 60-40 or 70-30, and Crawford ain't taking 60-40 or 70-30. He wants 50-50. So that fight is not going to happen. I think as boxing fans, we need to forget about that fight, because that fight ain't going to happen. Terence Crawford, Errol Spence is not going to happen. Simple as that. Simple as that. The Terence Crawford Canelo fight is not going to happen. I mean, Terence Crawford Errol Spence fight is not happening. It's not going to happen. Unfortunately, as unfortunate as it is, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Because I think Errol Spence feels that he's the big dog right now. And he feels that he holds most of the belts. He feels he's earning more money. And he just feels that Terence Crawford should take what they give him. And Terence Crawford ain't going to do that. I think Terence Crawford's too proud a champion to cave in to 60-40 or 70-30. He wants 50-50. He feels he's achieved more than Spence. And Terence Crawford really doesn't care, because Terence Crawford's earning $4 to $6 million a fight. He's happy with the money he's earning. That money is going to make... if Terence Crawford keeps fighting, keep making that kind of money, he's going to be set for life anyway. He's probably already set for life. So... Terence Crawford doesn't need to cave into any man and just for a few more million. I think Terence Crawford's just not gonna. That fight's not gonna happen. I think Errol Spence has made it clear that he's not gonna take anything less than 60-40. So, and Terence Crawford has made it clear that he's not gonna take anything less than 50-50. So that fight ain't happening. Unfortunately, as bad as it sounds, and as boxing fans, that's hurtful, but it's not gonna happen. And Canelo has clearly made it clear that he's not going to fight Spence. He wants to become undisputed at 168. However, I do think that the fight between Spence and Canelo will happen in the future. Just because I don't think Spence will have that ego with Canelo. And I think, obviously, when you're fighting Canelo, he's the biggest star in the sport. you're kind of just grateful you get that fight and you get a huge payday, because we know that Errol Spence will be making his highest payday by fighting Canelo, and Errol Spence would take that fight in a heartbeat, just because, you know, he knows that I'd be making huge amount of money to fight Canelo. And unfortunately, the fight that the fans want to see him in, he's not giving us that fight, and that's not going to go down too well with a lot of boxing fans. As soon as a lot of boxing fans heard what Spence had to say, I think they were left dejected and left that this Crawford fight ain't happening. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that, you know, yeah, it's just it's disappointing. It's disappointing, very disappointing as a hardcore boxing fan, that the Crawford Spence fight is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I think we need to kind of get over it. I think that to me has got another Amir Khan Kell Brook written all over it. I just think it's got another Amir Khan Kell Brook written all over it. I just can't see that fight happening. I don't see that fight happening, if I'm totally honest. But leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Guys, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps the algorithm. It really helps my channel. Make sure to hit that like button. I really appreciate all your support. Leave your thoughts, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.